Hey guys, welcome to our second flipped video lesson here. We're going to continue our discussion of the language of mathematics by specifically talking about identifying parts of our algebraic expressions. And we have to start with vocabulary. I know it's not the most fun thing in the world, but we talked last time that if you don't understand the language, the words that are being used, I won't know what you're saying and you won't know what I'm saying. So let's do this here. A variable. Now, a variable is a symbol, normally a letter, that is used to represent an unknown value. It is actually a value. It's a number, but we just don't know what it is yet. Now, terms. Terms are going to be pretty important as well. They are numbers, or they could be variables, or they could actually be a product of a number and variable, multiplication there, which are separated by, and this is really important, addition or subtraction. Addition or subtraction symbols is how we know where one term ends and the next term begins. Now, an algebraic expression is very simply a mathematical phrase with one or more terms. You've actually already done some of these when you were doing your work in the notes in the flipped lesson in Target 1. Let's start talking about some of the pieces of these terms. The first is a coefficient. This is a word we're going to have to remember. We're going to use it all year long. A coefficient is a value being multiplied by a variable. So if you look at a term and there is a known value being multiplied by the variables, that's the coefficient. A constant is a term with no variable. So if you see a term with no variables and just a known value, that's a constant. Factors. Factors are also important here. Factors are the values being multiplied in a term. So when we look at a term, there's probably always going to be two or more factors. There might be a constant, which technically has no factors, but a lot of times there's going to be multiple factors in our terms there. So we've talked about terms. Let's talk about some specific names for our algebraic expressions. If an algebraic expression has only one term, then it's a monomial. A binomial is an algebraic expression with two terms. A trinomial, hopefully you guessed it, is an algebraic expression with three terms. Now, any algebraic expressions with four or more terms, we're going to lump all into the same vocabulary word here and call them a polynomial. We're not going to have specific names for 4, 5, 6, and so forth. Those are all just going to be called polynomials. Well, now that we got the vocabulary out of the way, let's break that vocabulary down looking at a specific example here. First question we have, how many terms are there in the expression above? Remember, how did we separate terms? Well, hopefully you said 4 terms. We can see that there are 4 terms because we know terms are separated by addition or subtraction symbols. The subtraction and 2 addition symbols break it up into 4 terms. Another important thing to notice here is that the operation, the addition and subtraction symbol that precedes is before the term is attached to the term that follows it. So the subtraction symbol is with the g to the third, the addition symbol is with the 11, and the second addition symbol is with the 19c squared b. Next question. In the first term, how many factors are there? Hopefully you said 3. We can see there are 3 individual values being multiplied there, 5, x, and y, giving us 3 factors. Next up, which term is the constant? Remember what a constant is. Hopefully you said it was 11. The third term has no variable in it. What is the coefficient of the fourth term? As we look at the fourth term, remember what a coefficient is, and hopefully you said 19. 19 is the known value that is a factor that's being multiplied in that term. Last question here, what's the coefficient of the second term? Maybe you looked at that second term and think this is a trick question, but it actually isn't. There is a coefficient there, and that coefficient is -1. This can be a tricky situation, which we're going to talk about here for a second. Anytime we have a term that has a variable but appears to have no coefficient, actually does have a coefficient of 1. It's what we call the ninja coefficient. Well, by we, I mean me. I call it the ninja coefficient because that 1 is hiding in between the operation and the variable there, just like ninjas are experts at hiding. And if you watch American Ninja Warrior, just like you have the ninja doctor, the ninja butcher, the ninja shoe salesman, lots of ninjas there, we're going to have lots of ninjas in math as well. This is the first one we're introduced to, the ninja coefficient. Please make sure you keep your eye out for him and identify him so that the ninja doesn't sneak up behind you and, well, you know what ninjas do when they sneak up behind people. So, now that we've done some examples together, why don't you try some on your own here? we want you to do two things with each of these algebraic expressions. First, tell us the number of terms and the proper name, binomial, monomial, polynomial, trinomial, any of those. Then secondly, tell us what the coefficient of each term is. So go ahead and pause the video and try that now. Well, let's see how you did. Hopefully, you saw that our first term had two terms, a binomial. B was 3, try. C was 4, a polynomial. We're back to a binomial in D. Also notice that we don't have a coefficient in the second term because it's a constant. If there are no variables, we can't have a number being multiplied by variables. So our constants and coefficients are never the same thing. It's a constant instead of a coefficient. Same thing in example C. Again, if any of these didn't make sense to you, or you're confused about any of them, please, 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 and I'm going to beg you every video, so come to class with questions, ask your questions, and make sure you understand this material. That brings us to the end here, and hopefully you look as happy at the end of this video as this guy does driving whatever it is he's driving. Until next time, guys, see you later.